Listening makes us smarter, more connected people. It makes us better partners, parents, and leaders. And there's no better place to start listening than Audible. Audible is where so many inspiring voices and compelling stories open listeners up to new experiences and ways of thinking. Audible members now get more than ever before. Members choose 3 titles every month, 1 audiobook plus 2 Audible originals that you can't hear anywhere else. Members also have unlimited access to more than 100 audio-guided fitness and meditation programs. Audible delivers bestsellers, business, self-improvement, memoirs, and more, all professionally narrated by actors, authors, and motivational superstars like Rachel Hollis, David Goggins, and Mel Robbins. Audible members can also get free access to the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Washington Post delivered daily to the Audible app. With the convenient app, members can access Audible anytime, at the gym, while commuting, or on the go, and on any device. We'll always pick right back up where you left off. Audible also offers free and easy audiobook exchanges, credits you can roll over for a year, and a library you keep forever, even if you cancel. Explore all the ways listening on Audible can help improve mind, body, and soul with entertainment, information, and inspiration. You can get titles from your favorite iHeart talent such as Chelsea Handler, Danny Shapiro, Charlamagne the God, and Bobby Bones on Audible. Start listening now with a 30-day Audible trial, and your first audiobook plus 2 Audible originals are free. Visit audible.com/iHeart or text iHeart to 500-500.
This is Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
Good morning, my friends. I am Dr. David Vitko, and you are listening to Enjoy Incredible Health. We're going to have another exciting show for you today, and I have a special guest who I'll introduce in just a few minutes here after I get through my little monologue. But I am a chiropractic physician with 34 years practice experience. I've learned a little bit in that time, and I'd love to share it with you and help you to become healthier. So I want to give a little shout out here to a couple of people today. My guest's mother listens, Dottie DeLeo. Thank you, Dottie, for listening in. I appreciate it very much. And I also want to thank my friend Mildred down Columbiana way, who kind of coaches me on the show and keeps me on the straight path on the show. And I appreciate your support, Mildred. So, I'm here to show you the way to own incredible health without any doubt. And, I know that's a big statement. How can anyone claim to be able to help everyone become incredibly healthier? That alone tells me this guy is a nut, you might be thinking, and what arrogance, what audacity it takes to make such a claim. But folks, I'm here because I've seen it. I've seen it in action. I know it works. It works for me. It works for my patients, and I want you to be healthy too. I hear all kinds of excuses for not getting healthier. Oh, my health is what it is because I had an illness as a child, or my doctor says that I have high cholesterol, and there's probably nothing I can do about it because my family just has that. Never mind the fact that everyone in your family is overweight, eats a half a cow, 3 little pigs, and hundreds of chickens every year. There's other factors involved than genetics, and you have a huge ability to influence that. Trust me on this. I've seen it. I know it works. By the way, folks, here's breaking news. If you have high cholesterol, it's fixable. If you have high blood pressure, high triglycerides, if you're counting on modern medicine to save your butt, you're putting your money, you're putting all your marbles in a risky bag, I'm telling you, because all they do is cover up the symptoms until some crisis hits, and then you're out of control. Then they have to try to save your life. I have all the respect for modern medicine and crisis care, but it is not the way to become healthy. Do what your doctor wants you to do, but work on your diet. It's the most powerful thing you can ever do. It is God's gift to all of us if we just do what we need to do. And my guest today is going to support that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But change your diet. Get healthy. Ask your doctor then, once you get healthy, ask your doctor to help you get off those costly and dangerous prescription drugs. If you have a cholesterol problem, saturated animal fats are the cause of high cholesterol and really the cause of the fastest growing gradual cause of ill health and premature death in the United States, and that's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. These are inextricably linked. They are first cousins without question. When you eat meat or cheese or other dairy every day, your liver becomes so overwhelmed in trying to deal with the constant influx of saturated animal fats. You know what? Your liver can't keep up. It's like a flood flowing into a place and you only got a bucket to bail. And the flood's coming in, 10 gallons at a time and you're putting out 5 gallons at a time. You can't keep up. Your liver just can't keep up. So you begin to build up extra cholesterol in your blood because your liver's overwhelmed. Guess what? Your liver can be cleaned. You can cleanse your liver just by eating lots of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis and leaving out the foods that clog it up. Sugars, saturated animal fats, alcohol, all these sweet and processed foods. It's not that hard, folks. Aren't you worth it? Don't you think that it would be worth it for you to be so much healthier, feel so much better, be around to see your kids and your children and your grandchildren graduate from high school and college and start their own family? And, that's all what life is about. It's all about family. Food should not be the center of our universe. Food is our fuel. I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy it. I love the food that I eat. It takes a little time to develop the taste, to get rid of that burden of that need for salty, fatty, sugary flavoring. But once you get past that, you really, truly appreciate the taste of fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. And, oh, man, speaking of that, have you gotten some strawberries yet this year? Mm-hmm. I was a little fearful that the strawberry crop was not going to be so tasty because of the lack of sunshine. But, man, was I wrong. The strawberries are tremendous. Get out and buy some strawberries at your local markets. And, by the way, there's a lot of lettuce and other fresh produce already available at your local farm markets. Get out there and support them, folks. They are wonderful people that grow great things that make us really healthy. So if you get at this, I promise you'll see improvement in just a few weeks, even less. So I'm not going to do any long advertising today because I want to introduce my guest here, and I want to hear her story. I want you to hear her story. I know it already, or part of it. And but if you decide that it's time to make a change, you can always call my office for an appointment. I can help you get to the cause of your health issues. Call Denise, my wife. We're the only two in the office, and you can call her at 482-9550. That's 330-482-9550. If we're not there, leave a message. I promise either Denise or I will call you back as soon as we can. And so today, I'm really excited to say that I have a special guest with us. My friend Susan DeLeo is here to share her amazing health recovery story. Hello, Susan. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Doctor. Thanks for having me.
Sorry about that rant. I get on these little rants and then
I'll tell you what, when I was listening to you, I was picturing my liver, and it just kind of came to me, I guess if you picture your liver as however big it is, and you just, so the poor thing is clogged, and I don't like that idea. I mean, I like to have a clean house, and I want to have a clean liver.
Right.
And so I'm listening intently to what you're saying.
Well, it's good to have sympathy for your liver because it truly is underappreciated.
Poor thing. Yeah. I'm sorry, liver.
Well, luckily, I don't think it has a feeling. But, the amazing thing about the liver, and this is what impresses me about the human body in general, you can cut 2/3 of the liver away and it'll grow back. It's the only regenerative organ in the body. Even though the brain actually can function by some nerve cells taking over the function of some that are lost, that's different. It doesn't really regrow itself. But the liver can actually replace itself. And thank God, because we are very good in America at damaging our livers.
We beat it up every day, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially, when we're younger, we all definitely damaged our liver. But anyway, the cool thing is your story just impressed me. And so when I started talking to you about that, I thought, I got to get her on the show because this is something that people could benefit from hearing. And so I always try to bring people on the show, either expert doctors or people who have just great health stories that support what I'm trying to say. So you basically now eat a pretty much plant-based diet, right?
I do. I have been for probably 7-8 years.
Okay, that's tremendous.
Yes.
So what is it that brought you to that point? What turned things around for you?
I have a girlfriend who is a doctor as well, and I I kept seeing her. She looks like Cameron Diaz. And I was like, what do you do? Because I want to start doing it too. So she said, well, I have a plant-based diet. I work out. I exercise all the time. She fits it into she doesn't fit it into her schedule. She actually schedules, like it's in her schedule to exercise.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'll do whatever it is. I don't care.
That's a good habit. So did you pick that part of her habit up too?
I did. Yeah, I did.
So every day you do some kind of exercise?
I do. I try anyway. I try either to walk, maybe a mile with my neighbor, try to do some arm weights.
That's great. Yeah, resistance exercise is key. Yeah, my son would be glad to hear that. He's a trainer and has a degree in exercise science, and he's always on me. Dad, you got to exercise. Yeah. Well, I exercised in college playing football in high school, and I coasted after that. So now I'm trying to make up for it. And it's a little tougher, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I want to hear. You have an amazing story of survival, and I would like to hear that if it's not too much to ask.
Of course. Yeah. So it was a day back in December of 2017. It was December 13th, I think, 2017, and my husband's physical therapy aide had asked me to move my car. Well, I never came back in the house, so the kid goes out looking for me. He's like, "Where the heck is she?" I was out wandering around in the snow. And so he put me in the car, and then he went and grabbed my husband and said, come out here right away. They took a look at me. They called 911. The paramedics took me right to St. Joe's Hospital, which is in our backyard in Warren. But no one knew what was wrong because I was delirious and I don't even know what I was doing. I was just, my body was shutting down.
So that had to be a scary moment for you. I mean, of course, maybe
it wasn't
you
for me.
You were out of it.
Nope, but, I have no recollection. My poor family was scared beyond. They didn't know what to do. The doctors didn't know what to do, frankly, for 6 hours. No one could figure it out. Then,
go ahead.
Finally, I said to a CNP, Renee, her name is Renee, she was asking me questions. I said, my chest hurts, my chest. And she told the doctor, who was a resident cardiologist, young Dr. Zach, and they ordered a CAT scan. Saw right away that what was going on. My aorta was dissecting.
Oh,
it was
boy.
just coming apart.
Wow.
There was blood filling up, I guess, the pericardium. Is that
right?
correct?
Yeah, the sac around the heart. Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
And so that is potentially deadly, and probably more often than not.
Yes.
And so
you shouldn't have lived at all.
How did
I should be dead.
How did you survive it then?
How did I survive? I believe it is because my body was, because of the way I eat, plant-based, and because I'm in pretty good physical shape, and God. I mean, those are the only things I can attribute it to.
It sounds like a fair attribution, but so to be clear, I mean, you've been eating plant-based for, you say, 6 or 7 years or something like that. So obviously, you ate differently before that.
I did.
Yeah. What was different?
Well, and I was never just like a huge, like horribly unhealthy eater. But I mean, I would eat meat, probably every day, dairy, cheese, milk,
right,
cottage cheese.
Those things we were taught were healthy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
We both grew up in about the same time span, and that was considered to be a healthy diet.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm not a huge sugar person, so like I'd rather have a piece of pizza. My grandma DeLeo would make pizza, and which is probably more healthy than, getting it at the store. She would make it.
Sure.
So I would rather have pizza or spaghetti than donuts or cookies.
Right.
Thank God.
Well, yeah, thank God is right, because had you had a sugar habit along with that, you probably would have had less a chance of survival. And I know there's a lot of people out there going, oh, come on, how can you say that? But the fact of the matter is sugar is a strong irritant to the lining of the blood vessels. And so are animal fats, so are saturated animal fats. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine, Dr. Gabe Merkin, who is a retired MD, and does a great newsletter, by the way. You can subscribe to that, folks. It's a free newsletter at drmerkin.com, and that's MIRKIN, drmerkin.com. And, he's fond of talking about how, we really don't know why it is that animal fats or that meat actually causes problems in the lining of the blood vessels. But they used to say, well, it's saturated animal fat. I still believe that. And they used to say, it's the high blood pressure that results from it. And that is a contributing factor. There's no question about it. All the authorities support that. But then he also talks about this chemical called TMAO that is something that happens when you digest meat, and it's an irritant that actually punches holes in the lining of the blood vessels. And there's another one that goes along with that. I can't think of it right now. But a couple of chemicals that come from meat digestion that actually weaken our lining of our blood vessels. So, but sugar can also do that. Sugar also makes the blood cells stick together more. And so what happens with that is you get a stickier situation where the cholesterol wants to grab onto the inside of the blood vessels. That plaque builds up and sooner or later tears loose. That can tear the lining to some degree, but it can also just float down your blood vessel and clot somewhere.
Yeah.
So
I picture those commercials where you see the blood vessels and you can actually see it. See, again, in my mind, if I picture is it epithelium?
Yeah, epithelial lining. Yeah.
Lining.
They call it the intima, the lining of the blood vessels. It's the part that's right next to the blood. I assume that's where it got its name. But there are many things that affect that weakness in the lining of the blood vessels. Alcohol consumption, which I can't speak for you, but when I was younger, I drank alcohol freely, and
every day.
And I've cut way back
sure.
as an adult.
For me, yeah. Probably not every day, Mom. My mother's listening, Mom. It was not every day, but in college, I'm sure
funny.
on the weekends.
You shouldn't have told your mom you were coming on until after the show.
I'm right. Yeah, guess what, Mom? I was on the radio. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you missed it.
Oh, that's cool. But anyway, I think our parents knew what we were doing back then, and we thought we got away with things, but parents always seem to know. And if not, God knows, right? That was always
God tells our parents.
That was my Catholic education, the fear that they put into me growing
right, me
up.
too.
But that had a good place, by the way.
It does.
Oh, and by the way, happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there today. I forgot to mention it earlier. Speaking of knowing all, most fathers do have a pretty good idea what's going on. But
yeah, Daddy, Bill DeLeo, happy Father's Day.
Okay.
Happy Father's Day to my brother Greg and my brother Tim.
Oh, great. Wow.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll take this moment. I always do these little social commentaries and things. I know people probably don't want to hear it. You're there to talk about health. Why are you talking about? But I'll tell you that the family is the root of all good things in this country, and it's also the root of all the issues that we have with these nuts that go off and shoot people and things like that. And we need to work more on that family structure. It's just not the same, is it, than when we were growing up?
I agree. But I do see some families coming around, Doctor. I mean, I feel like, I was at a family get together last night, not even my family, but I was invited by a friend. And just the general social, loving family.
It's nice to see.
It's so nice. And I know that despite all the bad news, we don't think families spend enough time. I think that families know we're supposed to spend time together. It's just a matter of making that conscious decision.
It's a natural instinct. Everybody's so busy these days. That's part of the problem. And then there's the other side of it where there are families that just don't care. And that's sad.
And what are they too busy doing is the question.
We don't want to
I know, that's another show.
Let's get back to your health issue, because that's what we really want to get across to people. So you survived this. So you had actually open chest surgery. I did.
Emergency open heart. Yeah, Cleveland Clinic came and got me. Their team came and got me in a snowstorm, got me up to the clinic, and I went right into emergency. Of course, emergency. It's always, open heart, but this was an emergency. Mm-hmm. I was probably in there for 7 or 8 hours. I remember my husband was there in the waiting room, and I remember hearing a message on my phone, and one of the nurses said, Mr. Novak, we made the first incision at 6:30. So it was probably 6:30 in the morning, the day of December 14th, I bet. And so it was like maybe 7 hours.
Wow.
My first memory actually is waking up in the intensive care, like the step down unit at Cleveland Clinic. It was completely dark. I was happy as could be. I was feeling no pain.
Yeah.
And my brother, I remember my brother came in, and he's denying this, but he was crying. My sister came in, and she was crying, of course. And I was like, what? I was like, I felt no pain. I mean, I was in a complete comfortable. They took such great care of me. And I remember looking across the hall, not even the hall, because we were all in one big room, I think. But there was a man across the bed, like in the bed across from me. And I think he and I were just like looking at each other. It was almost like we were, I don't know,
connecting.
Yeah. Because neither of us talked to one another. But
it was a telepathic thing.
It was.
I think medication can give you that sense.
Maybe he was never there. It was just my imagination.
That's a possibility too. But so I love the fact that we have this tremendous care. I mean, 50 years ago, you wouldn't have survived that. There's no getting around it. The surgical techniques and the materials and the skills of the surgeons and all the staff, and it's just phenomenal. But I also, on the other end, I think there's so many people that go through these things that shouldn't have to. And so I'll go back to, what the risk factors, the things that increase the chances of you having that is alcohol consumption, smoking. You never smoked, did you?
Back in the day.
See, now when you were younger, that was a social thing,
bit,
right?
Yep, socially.
And
sure.
so if you didn't do it regularly, that's something else. But a high-fat diet, which you did if you ate meat every day.
Oh, yeah.
And there are studies, folks, that show that everyday consumption of meat, I'm actually going to post this on my website at drvitkohealth.com. I have a list, and again, it's from Dr. Merkin's newsletter. He's a phenomenal source for material. But these studies show that regular meat eaters are at increased risk for peripheral artery disease. That's the first thing they mention. Now, that's not a peripheral artery necessarily, but it's a major artery in the body. And all our blood vessels are affected by these things that we do to our body that are damaging to it. And so if it can cause peripheral artery disease, it can also cause major artery disease. Yours was in the aortic arch toward the heart.
Yep. So they fixed it with an elephant arch.
That's amazing.
Something.
Yeah. It wasn't from an elephant though, but
no.
Yeah.
It felt like it.
Yeah.
There was no pain.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the amazing thing.
The amazing thing is that you survived. I mean,
oh my God, I know.
They get dissecting aneurysms kill people every day. As a matter of fact, 10,000. They estimate there are tens of thousands of these every year in this country, and maybe it's more often than that. I forget what the statistic was, but it's not as uncommon as you think.
Oh, yeah. People drop dead. I mean, I heard actually stories. My mom was telling me that there were a couple people in the paper that had died. I think one poor man died in the hospital parking lot.
Right.
I mean, because the problem is you don't know what's happening.
No sensation that there's a problem.
No.
Maybe if you think back some faint indication that you didn't really think much of.
You don't think.
Yeah.
So I had situational high blood pressure. I was not being treated for it.
Major contributor. Yeah.
My husband needed a kidney transplant. So stress, I was a caretaker. Stress under constant stress. So probably looking back, and I'm an overachiever. I'm always doing a million things at once.
Kind of a perfect storm kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But those things actually happen over time. They don't come on instantly. You probably had that going on for months, if not years ahead of time.
Yes.
And it just got to the point where it weakened enough to tear and cause major issues.
Yeah. My surgeon told my husband, she said, he was in construction, and she said, it's kind of like I super glued her aorta back together.
Right. Oh, that's pretty
Here's
cool.
me picturing it. I asked my surgeon, actually, I said, Dr. Mick, her name's Stephanie Mick, doctor, is it going to happen again? I think that was my first question as I, came to.
Right.
Will it happen again? She said, nope, never. You're good.
Well, that's really cool. So we're going to take a break here for just a minute, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk more to Susan DeLeo about her amazing health recovery. You're listening to Enjoy Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko, and we'll be right back, folks. Hang in there.
Welcome back to Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
All right, we're coming back now, and with my guest, Susan DeLeo. And by the way, you may know Susan because she is the host of a television show, right?
It's called Health Chats, and I just started this about a year ago with WKBN TV, and so basically these are it's not a news. So I come from the news world. These are more from the sales end of things. But the cool thing is that I've been learning so much. I mean, just, you can always learn about health, and I'm fascinated. I was the health correspondent at WFMJ TV, and now doing this from a whole completely different perspective. So I get to go in to visit with these doctors and health professionals. And, for example, I was with an eye doctor the other day. He's phenomenal, Dr. Lindsay in Cortland. Mm-hmm. And who knows about eye exams?
And by the way, Dr. Lindsay didn't pay us, unless he wants to send a check.
He might, Dale might do that. But the cool thing is, I just have learned so much. And I mean, that's the cool thing about you, doctor, is that I'm learning so much just sitting by you. I feel like if I sit close enough, through osmosis, I can maybe get healthier.
I've had people tell me they've learned things they didn't want to learn by being too close to me. So.
I'm sure.
But it is true that, and I talk to my listeners all the time about this, you need to immerse yourself in this. So those things that you've learned about health, had you not experienced them, had you not been exposed to them, you wouldn't have that knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so the more you dive into it, and what's more important than health?
Nothing.
If you had $1 billion, if you had, say Donald Trump's money, or, we'll go on the opposite extreme, George Soros' money, you had any of these guys' money, and you didn't have health, you have nothing.
Well, and here's the thing, people with all the money in the world, they drop dead just like we do.
No question.
I mean, they're in a wheelchair just like we are.
A lot of times sooner, because they don't feel the need necessarily to be preventative in their health, and they have the means to live any way they want, and they tend to live extravagantly and eat extravagantly and eat a lot of fatty, sugary things. Oh, it's a good life. And, back in the Middle Ages, a lot of people died from gout and gout-associated diseases because they ate really high-fat diets. Now, these were the rich people that died. The peasants, they died of other things, infections.
They weren't eating as much meat because they couldn't afford it.
That's exactly right. The royalty always had these big days-long feasts where they would feast on the fatted calf, it said, and they all suffered terribly and died. Even the Egyptians, they know that the pharaohs and the wealthy Egyptians had terrible issues with tooth abscesses and different types of diseases that happened because they had sugar way back then, believe it or not, and they also had forms of alcohol that they drank. And so, if you had no clue that alcohol and sugar and meat was bad for you, you're going to eat it and you're going to drink it because, hey, it's fun.
It tastes good. It's so yummy. And it's like the more you eat of it, it's like a potato chip. You got to keep having more and more and more. And that's the thing, I guess, with sugar, right? I mean, you taste one thing of sugar and your brain is telling you, oh my God, I need more of this.
And sugar is truly a lot like opiates. And so are things like caffeine and alcohol. Let's face it, some people tend to get hooked on them and other people can take it or leave it. But sugar in particular is empty calories. And so when you eat it and it's sweet, it doesn't satisfy your need for nutrition. And your body is craving certain things. And so it's going to take whatever you put in it. But the cool thing about sugar is if you can get off of it for a month or 6 weeks or so, you can conquer that craving as long as you don't go back. Because
absolutely. Yeah. I again, at this party yesterday, I think I had maybe one small cookie, but they had a huge array of dessert. But again, I was never really a big dessert eater.
Right,
but if you're eating the other stuff like the tomato salad and the coleslaw and the beans, I really had no desire to have any of the cake or the other stuff.
And those other things satisfy that nutritional need, that drive your body has to get that nutrition. So that's why you can become satisfied. The other factor in all that is that when you eat, if you still feel hungry, give it a half hour, because actually they've done studies on this, and your stomach doesn't tell your brain, to put it in simple terms, that it's full until about 15 or 20 or 30 minutes later.
Such a good advice. I mean, such good advice, doctor. I know this, and I find myself recently like eating mindlessly, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I mean, I know when I was thinner than I am right now, I know the way I got to be thinner was not only of what I was eating, but by just eating, like you said, eat less, put it in a small bowl,
right,
a small plate, and just, you don't have to clean your plate. Just, you're not eating, like you said, we eat to live. So just, you don't have to finish everything.
Eating is designed for us to provide us energy, just like any other energy conversion system in nature. All things consume a fuel and produce either heat or work energy or something out of it. If there's a couple of mistakes that God made, and I hate to say this because there's probably lightning around out there today, but if there are a couple of mistakes that God made, it's making the flavor of foods too good.
So good.
Yeah, and
so good. But you know what? God also made the flavor of the good stuff. And he helped us have the knowledge to know how to season it and use herbs.
Right.
And so he made up for it.
That is true.
In other ways.
And I teach my listeners all the time that you have to overcome, we've all dumbed down our senses to the point where when you eat fatty, sugary, salty foods every day, our taste buds actually develop a feel for that, and they crave that in a lot of ways. So our craving is in our brain to satisfy our taste buds. But when you go the fruit and vegetable route, melons, nuts, seeds, berries, all the good stuff, a little bit of grain, some beans, things like that, and you stay away from the fatty, sweet, salty stuff long enough, and it really only takes about a week or two on this, you lose the taste for those things. You lose that craving, and your sense of taste becomes so much more acute. You actually start to crave a salad or some steamed
some
veggies.
Watermelon. I had watermelon this morning.
It's amazing this year, is it not?
Yes, and strawberries, like you said. And you know what? Here's a tip for people listening right now. Okay, it's Sunday, so you might have a little, and happy Father's Day, of course. You might have a little extra time today. Get some stuff, get some good stuff, like Dr., get the berries, get the, some vegetables. Chop them up right now. Put them in some of your containers. Start preparing today because, today you could start eating better right at this moment.
Right.
So for lunch and for the rest of the week, if you start preparing today, it will be not a chore for you. It will be kind of fun. Be in the kitchen, get the kids involved.
And that's spoken like a person who's done this. This is the fun thing for me. Most of the time I'm sitting here by myself and trying to relate this to people. But if you've ever done this, like preparing ahead of time, I know my son as a fitness coach, he actually teaches people to prep their food for a week, and so use Tupperware, store it. It'll keep just as good. Make it in meal size storage containers, and then just grab one and eat that, and don't eat anything else. Don't be picking. The problem with preparing food every day is, like I'll do, or I used to do anyway, is, start cooking dinner and have a glass of wine, have a few tortilla chips, and before you know it, I ate like 500 calories before dinner.
No, well, get some make your own hummus. So get your hummus recipe. Get some,
or buy
celery.
Hummus. It's good.
You could buy it.
The store bought stuff it's
fine.
Pretty hard to screw hummus up.
It has the tahini in it though.
Yeah,
so if you can find it.
And
without,
hummus is one of those things. And here we go. It's one thing to be healthy. It's another if you're trying to lose weight. And so if you're trying to lose weight, things like hummus can be a little dense on the calorie side. So you want to be careful because it's a fat, basically. And it's a healthy
unless
fat.
Unless you make it yourself. So here's me again. Right? Or is it still just chickpeas and lemon
fat.
juice?
Yeah, chickpeas are a fat.
Are they?
And
okay.
yes, rich in fat. And so they're high in calories.
Oh.
And especially if you add a little oil to it or something.
I do not.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good.
I would never.
That's good. So, but anyway,
serious.
The chickpeas themselves can be a fatty thing. Now, I'm not saying they're not good. I mean, one of my favorite restaurants here is Aladdin's. I don't know if you ever eat it.
Love it.
And Aladdin's supports the show, and so full disclosure, but I love eating there. But you can also eat on the unhealthy side there, even though all their foods are so fresh and delicious. Mm-hmm. But if you overeat on certain things, and hummus is one of them, or the bread or things like that, hey, you're not helping yourself. So
good to know. See, listeners, Doc is, learning.
You were sent here for a reason today.
Yes,
Susan.
That's right.
So I want to ask you a little more about your health. So now, what did your doctor give you some advice after the surgery? Did your surgeon say, hey,
Yes, so that's the thing I remember about Dr. Stephanie. She came in with like an entourage of nurses and CNPs, and they were all women, I think, on her staff. And I remember her coming in. I asked that one question, is this going to happen to me again? And then when she came in the second time, she said, well, you know what? And I came in whatever day that was, but I was there for a week. So she said, if all goes well, you can go home on Wednesday. So here's me. Okay, I'm like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta get home. I gotta get home. So when she came in the next day, I was sitting cross-legged in one of the chairs. I was not in bed. And she came in and she's like, oh my God, what do you sit? I've never seen, she's like, I don't think she said it. Maybe one of her staff said, I don't think I've ever seen a patient sitting like cross-legged waiting for us to come in the door. So I think you're ready to go home.
You tapping your fingers.
Yes. I was like, where is she?
Anybody that's spent any time in the hospital knows that feeling when they're ready to get out.
Yes, but she did tell me that she said, you know what, I think what saved your life is because of the way you were eating and the way you had taken care of your body. Because she didn't say because, but I knew she meant otherwise you'd be dead.
Yeah, well, you weren't obese at the time.
Right.
And maybe you weren't in top physical condition, fitness-wise, but your diet for several years before that had been pretty good. Mm-hmm. And what she may have been alluding to is the fact that when you eat a fruit and vegetable-based diet or you eat a plant-based diet, your blood becomes naturally thinner and your cholesterol naturally is reduced and your blood pressure starts to come down and things like that. Unfortunately, you probably already had some damage in place, and they continued to be eroded to the point where, you had that dissection. But, the fact that you survived that probably does lean heavily on your diet in the few years before that and your health or your efforts to be healthier.
Absolutely. And, one of the reasons I think that God kept me here, and I didn't know for a long time, and I still really don't know why God kept me. And
this is part of the reason.
This is the reason.
I can tell you clearly
why I'm here now.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. I never used to believe that. I'm not so sure that everything is predestined, but I think that you sharing your story with people here today is a huge benefit to everybody that's listening.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I like to think that you definitely will influence some people with your story.
I hope so. I mean, it's plain and simple. I mean, God wants us, and I know God wants me to just spread the word and let people know, hey, you don't have to have a terrible life and be unhealthy and limp around because your legs are all puffed up and you feel terrible all the time. I mean, you don't have to feel that way.
That's right.
Your kids don't want you to feel that way. Your grandkids, your nieces and nephews, they want you to feel good. And don't think about, if you don't do it for yourself, think about your family.
Right.
Because they don't want you to die tomorrow because of something that you could do today.
Right.
That will save you.
Yeah, if you just get started, the upside is right around the corner most of the time. And it's not an instantaneous thing, but when you work at it a little bit day in, day out, changing your habits, building better habits, improved habits, the natural outcome is great health. And that's a really cool thing, is that it's designed into you. You said that you use a medication now still, right, to help control your blood pressure?
I'm on lisinopril right now.
Okay.
Yes.
And so there you go. Her doctor's working with her to keep her healthy, but she's also working on her own to be healthier.
Absolutely, because I'll tell you what, I'm like a lot of people out there. I don't want to be on medicines for the rest of my life, and I'm working to, and thankfully I'm here with you today because I'm learning more about how to do this. I want to get off the medicine. I don't
Sure.
want to be on blood pressure medicine.
Well, if that's the worst you have to take, I mean, that's not so bad. What scares me and what bothers me is when I see patients go through things like this, or they have stents put in to bypass the blockages around their hearts and things like that, and they leave the hospital and they were given no instruction toward a plant-based diet. That, to me, is criminal. Yes, because the research supports it fully. And so what are we doing? Are we creating repeat customers, you know?
Well, and here you asked me earlier, what did they tell you before you left the hospital about eating? I don't think they told me anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember clearly. I know that there were some social workers who were like, getting me ready to go home. I feel like,
they kind of dropped the ball on that.
They do.
I mean, and the funny thing is at Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Esselstyn.
I was just going to say.
He's a tremendous guy. And I don't know, I had heard in some circles that he was kind of pushed out because he's teaching people to fix their hearts by eating healthier. But
right. And the surgeons are mad
power.
at him because they want to do surgery.
That's
and
right.
he's,
Okay. We'll be right back.
Yep.
Just a minute. Hey, folks, you're listening to Enjoy Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Welcome back to Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
Oh, no time to listen to that great guitar work by Don Henley, but let's get on with the show here. And so Susan DeLeo is my guest today. And Susan, we just have a couple of minutes. So you got any parting shots? Anything you want to say?
I do. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for letting me plug Health Chats, WKBN TV. It's on Wednesdays at noon, and then at 5:30 now. We just started the 5:30 p.m. on Thursdays, and all the segments are at WKBN.com. My other parting wisdom is just start today, right now. Get to the grocery store or get stuff out of your refrigerator. Start putting those things in good food in your Tupperware so you're ready for the week. Start out tomorrow with some good oatmeal, maybe some blueberries. One day at a time, one meal at a time. That's it. We'll tell you how to do it. And that's the hardest part, right, Doc?
I knew I brought you on for a reason, and I did not pay her to say that either, folks. So you've heard me say that before, I know. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your Sunday morning and coming on. It's great to have you here.
My pleasure.
So it's fun working with a professional.
Thank you.
But so listen, folks, I talk about a lot of this stuff in my book, Perfect Cholesterol in Just 3 Weeks Without Drugs. It's not just about cholesterol. It's about overall health. And so, if you don't have a copy of my book, I highly recommend you get it. I had some really terrific people come to stop in my office from Cortland last week. They were down my way, and give them a little shout out. It was great to speak with you folks. I'm sorry I forgot your names at this point, but
they know who they are.
Yeah, I meet so many different people. It's that's my excuse. But anyway, had a great conversation, and there are a couple of people in their 70s that look fantastic, and they just take good care of themselves. It's because they already eat a plant-based diet, but they wanted a copy of my book, so they came by the office. And so, I'm always available. If you want to stop in to get a book, you can talk to me. We're down on East Park Avenue in Columbiana, 840 East Park Avenue. Or you can go on my website, and there's links to get the book. Or on my website, folks, there's a lot of free stuff. I put my articles that I write in there, my personal articles out of my head, basically, that are things that I think are important, motivational things that can help you understand how this type of a diet can change your life. And I try to really get the message across in an exciting way. So go to Dr. Vitko Health. That's DRVITKO health.com, and read for free. Learn for free. All my podcasts of past shows are on there. There's over 30 of them on there. You can learn, listen, immerse yourself in it. The more you learn, the smarter you'll be, the more automatic your decisions become. Thanks for listening to Enjoy Incredible Health. This is your host, Dr. David Vitko, and we'll be back here next week. I hope you are.